What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, Shaquille O'Neal considers himself the most dominant player in the history of the NBA. And it bothers him when people refer to Wilt as the most dominant. Alright? So, he recently appeared on the Fluent and Chill podcast. And I'll put a link to this article in the pinned comment in the comment section below. And this is what he had to say in regards to the whole Wilt Chamberlain comparisons. As a matter of fact, we'd be a little bit more specific. In this particular podcast, he was asked who would win one-on-one if both of them were in their primes. And this is what Shaq said. I hate when you ask the question, you can't ask sub-questions. For example, what era are we playing in? And then, I'm looking at Wilt's highlights, and I'm not impressed. I was a lot more hip-hop. I had a lot more style. I was the first dude to bring it off of a rebound through a foul. Young Wilt, young Shaq, I'm going with young Shaq. Well, look. It's true that Shaq has the edge in championships and finals MVPs. Shaq had 4 NBA championships in his 19-year career. Wilt had 2 in his 14-year career. Shaq has 3 finals MVPs. Wilt has 1. Though, it has to be noted that the 67 championship was 2 years before they started issuing out finals MVPs. You know what I'm saying? Just like how it's going to be unfair to compare generations playing after this period and with LeBron, because there's no such thing as for most of his career, there was no such thing as a Western Conference Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP. There's a new award, a new participation trophy that they're giving to players to make them feel like they're accomplishing something if they don't win a championship. But anyway, Shaq has the edge in that, but Shaq has to remember something. When Wilt Chamberlain was playing, you couldn't bulldoze your way to the basket using your shoulder. That would have been an offensive foul every time. If you can recall, the last 2 years of Shaq's career, especially that last year, he wasn't getting that call anymore. Remember, he kept fouling out, getting into foul trouble. That's what it should have happened his whole fucking career. But when he was a star, he was getting away with it. The way that he was bulldozing and manhandling Dikembe Mutombo. Right? Wilt couldn't do that. Wilt couldn't utilize his physicality in that manner. And they changed the game for Wilt. I mean, Shaq had to deal with the hacker Shaq, but they were doing that to Wilt, fouling him multiple times a game and hoping that'd be the difference. And sometimes maybe it was. But usually, Wilt Chamberlain efficiency, as far as scoring, neutralized that, as well as his defense. But I don't recall them widening the lanes to nullify, Shaq's dominance. I don't recall them outlawing him being able to jump from the free throw line for free throws, right? So let's look at the facts here. Shaq has 2 scoring titles, Wilt 7, and he could have had a lot more if he wasn't such a consummate team player, despite, these narratives that he was selfish. He could have had more scoring titles. Shaq for his career averaged 23-9. Wilt 30-23. Shaq in his prime 27 and maybe 11. Wilt in his prime 39-24. As a matter of fact, with the Warriors, he averaged 42 points a game. What else? Shaq never made an all-defensive first team. Wilt did it his last 2 years in the NBA when he was past his prime. If that had been around his entire career, he might have been on 5 or 6 of those. What else? Shaq never led the league in rebounding. Wilt did 11 of the 14 years he played. Shaq never led the league in blocks. Now, we don't definitively know how many blocks Wilt Chamberlain have, but according to some of the statisticians that did officially keep note of those stats and keep track of those stats, we do know that for an 88-game period with the Sixers, he averaged 8.9 blocks per game. Wilt Chamberlain probably is the all-time leader in blocks unofficially, and he probably led the league in blocks at least half of the years he played in the NBA. At least half, which would be about 7 or 8 times. Shaq has 2 career triple-doubles. Wilt has 78, and that's not including blocks. That's just assists. Double-digit assist triple-doubles. Double-digit blocks. Oh, man, Wilt probably has altogether 300 career triple-doubles. He's probably the real leader in triple-doubles. But because steals and blocks weren't counted for his entire career and conveniently started the year after he retired, Shaq, 3 career 50-point games. Wilt, include the playoffs, 122. Matter of fact, I believe I saw a stat that said that there's still fewer players in NBA history other than Wilt to score 50 points in a game in comparison to how many 50-point games he's had. That stat might be a little bit obsolete. Maybe it's a little bit more now. But it was 100 and something, like 110 players that have scored 50 points or more, and Wilt has had 122 50-point games. Wilt was big. Well, Shaq was bigger, but Wilt was stronger. Wilt was faster. Wilt was more athletic. Wilt had at least a 42-inch vertical leap in his prime, possibly as much as 45-inch. Shaq's vertical leap was never more than maybe 34 inches, 32 inches. I'm just trying to figure out how he's a more dominant player. Shaq played with more Hall of Famers in their primes. He's never really led a team per se without having... Look, this is a guy that for every one of his championship runs, he had either the second greatest shooting guard of all time or, depending upon your perspective, the third or fourth greatest shooting guard of all time in Wade. When Wilt was with the Warriors, Guy Rodgers was a really good pass first point guard, but he was no Magic Johnson. Paul Arizin was on the downside of his career when he started playing with Wilt. The best team Wilt ever played with was those Sixers teams. Even when he went to the Lakers, Elgin Baylor was past his prime and Jerry West was entering out of his prime. Hell, Shaq even had better coaching. He had Phil Jackson. Who's the best coach Wilt ever had? Maybe Alex Hannum? And then maybe Bill Sharman. But he's had some terrible coaches or some mediocre coaches. Bretta Van Kolff, I think, was one of them. But anyway, at the end of the day, man, I just don't understand how anybody can think that Wilt is less dominant. I really am struggling with this one. Shaq could bench press 440 pounds in his prime. Amazing. Wilt could bench press at least 550, 570. It's documented that when he was 59 years old, he could still bench press 465 pounds, which is more than Shaq could ever bench press. In his prime, in his 20s, in his 30s. That's why I kill when people say, well, I don't believe Wilt could bench press any more than 300 pounds. Nigga, it's documented that he bench pressed 465 when he was 59, you idiot. Anyway, Big Ben could bench press 465. He was 6'9", 240. And last but not least, Wilt was swept once in the playoffs. Once. Shaq was swept 6 times. I think that's a record. 6 times. 1994 by the Pacers, first round. 1995 in the finals by the Rockets. 1996 by the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. 1998 by the Jazz in the Western Conference Finals. 1999 by the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. And 2007 in the first round by the Chicago Bulls. And in 1997, they lost 4-1 to the Jazz. And in 2004, they lost 4-1 to the Pistons. And Shaq was a big reason. He was an integral reason as to why in many of those series they were swept. But Shaq is the Dundada, though. Get out of here, man. Anyway, tell me what you guys think.